Welcome to the store part of our section about routing and views. Now we'll see how to bind a specific controller to our routes. So we want to create a controller for the about HTML page as well as one for the contact page. How to do that? Let's just add a new property inside the route provider when method and we'll call it controller. And the parameter will be the name of our controller. So about CTRL, that's it. We'll do the same for the contact route, so let's add another controller in here. Controller, we'll name it contact CTRL, and that's it. We can save this page, and then we'll move to our controller.js and we'll create a controller here about CTRL, and another controller in here, which is the contact CTRL. We can inject the scope object, scope, and now what we want to do is to provide a parameter so that it will be accessible by our controller. So we want that whenever the user clicks on about, a parameter will travel along the URL. So how to do that? We can just change our index.html about route and we'll add something like slash, and let's say that our parameter contains a value which is Alex. And the contact page contains another parameter which is, let's say, Mark. Okay? So how we can tell our route provider that this specific part of the URL is an actual parameter? It's very easy. We can change our route, add a slash here, and if we add the colon sign as prefix, this will mean that everything that comes afterwards will be an actual parameter, and we can rename it. So in here it will be our param1, and for the contact it will be pretty much the same. In our controller now, we can use a special service, which is the routeParams, that will let us access that parameter and use it inside our controller. routeParams, this is the annotation, and this is the actual function. Params. And the same in the contact controller. That's it. So now we want to access our parameter inside the controller. So let's declare a scope property. We'll call it input, and we'll assign it to the routeParams.param1. Why param1? Because this is the name that I gave it inside my route. So it will be basically this value here will be saved into param1, and param1 will be accessible in our controller to the routeParams. We can put the same identical logic inside our contact controller, so we'll see the difference between the two. And now we have to change our templates so that the output will show our input value. So we'll add an h2 tag, and we'll type something like the input value is, and then if you remember the expression that will contain our input property, we can copy the same inside the contact page and save it. So basically input, which is the same in here, should show Alex for the about page and Mark for the contact page. So let's just have a look again at the app.js just in case we have typed something wrong, and in fact I did at line 11. This parenthesis shouldn't be here. We can save it. Everything looks alright now, and we can refresh our index.html. So now, clicking on the about page will print the input value is Alex, which is our parameter here, and in the contact page we have the input value is Mark, which is our second parameter. So far so good, right? So another thing I want to tell you guys is that there's no need only to hard code the parameter, but it can also be an expression of any kind. So we'll use as an example just a quick sum, 1 plus 1, So if we go back to the home page, we refresh it and we click on the About page again, the input value will be 2 this time. So 1 plus plan is evaluated and then converted into our parameter. So far guys, we've seen how to define our templates, how to inject a controller, how to pass parameters as well. What we haven't seen is another way to use to define a template. Instead of using template URL, you can use instead the template property, and the difference will be that the template this time will be basically in line. So in here you can just define your template. We can add just an h1 again. In here, same thing in here. We'll close the tag h1. I am the About page. So if we refresh once again, we'll see instead this template. So it's and in case you really have tiny templates and you don't want to move it into a separated page, even if I would recommend you guys to so use template URL, everything is more organized, and it's just a suggestion that will help you out. There's something else we didn't talk about yet when speaking of routing, and is how to use the resolve properties, but we'll see more about that when we start to use the HTTP service later on. In the next lesson instead we'll see a few more things. Specifically we'll talk about the ng-include property, which is used to import your templates inside your view. So say that you want to include a specific partial, that's how we'll call it, inside your main template, you can use the ng-include Angular property to do so. It's a specific directive with a few features. We'll see how to use it in a while. See you in the next lesson.